Troy, if you want to start things
Sure.
off.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. This is Troy Thompson. I'm a senior systems engineer here at Nutanix, and I cover a number of our enterprise accounts here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And we're very thankful to have Scott and the team at Plan B kind of hosting these quick overviews of just some of the Nutanix technologies and products that we offer. So a couple of weeks ago, Scott was able to present kind of the Nutanix overview for us, and it kind of dove into a little bit about what Nutanix is, kind of the core technologies. Today, we're going to talk about our Nutanix files. So this is basically the Nutanix file sharing, so SMB NFS file services that we offer. Very quickly, though, before we get started, I'm going to do just a really quick overview of what Nutanix is, the hyperconverged infrastructure, where we're really, taking the complex stack of storage area networks, NAS type devices, the servers and the virtualization layers, and we're collapsing all of that down into a simplified appliance. And when I say appliance, it's really can be any appliance that you want. So whether it's got a Nutanix logo on the front of it, or whether it's a Dell, or whether it's a Hewlett-Packard, Lenovo, we're all about choice. And that choice extends into even the hypervisors that we use. So whether it is our own AHV hypervisor, whether it is ESX or Microsoft Hyper-V, we collapse everything. We allow customers to really use our software on any hardware as a platform that can run any application in any location. Today, I've got circled here, I've got the files portion that we're going to be talking about. But as you learned a couple of weeks ago from what Scott delivered, we really offer that platform that can be the basis of your hybrid cloud environment. So running our solution in your own private cloud, extending that into the public cloud with Nutanix clusters, whether that's going to be in AWS, whether it's our own Xi cloud services, we really give you that platform and the capability to run anything, anywhere. So as we're talking about Nutanix files, that falls really under our one data fabric. So in terms of storage services that Nutanix offers, we can offer storage services across the board, whether it's simply for your VMs, that very easy virtualization pieces that we've all come to know and love. But we also offer a very robust file services capability, object services for those very, very large unstructured sets of data, and even block services if you need iSCSI-based connectivity in between, say, database VMs or Microsoft SQL cluster VMs. We offer all of that within one unified storage fabric, scaled out across all of our appliances, providing security, performance, and reliability. So if we look really into what is Nutanix Files, it's that modern approach to file services. But we stick with the standard value proposition that Nutanix offers. Simplicity, all right? So it's no specialized skills. It is what we call a consumer grade design in terms of how you manage it. It's very simple to use. You can start small and scale up with larger nodes, or you can scale out across a number of nodes, any number of nodes that you need to deliver the capacity and the performance that you're after. Like we say, it's flexibility, it's freedom of choice. You don't have to buy a ton of hardware up front. You can buy simple Nutanix nodes. If you need more capacity, you can add the same nodes. You can add capacity to those nodes, or you can add dedicated storage nodes into your environment to provide you that capacity. It's very extremely flexible. And what we're going to talk about a little bit later really dives into the file analytics of how we are delivering additional capabilities to you very simply and easily on top of the files platform. So you can gain some control, you gain visibility as to what's happening with your data, and in the future you'll gain the capability to actually make intelligent decisions with that data, all from a machine learning AI type environment where you can manage where that data lives. So a little bit more, it's a software-defined file server. So with the Nutanix files is simplicity compared to other vendors. It is not a days-long implementation of installing multiple nodes, installing multiple networks. It is very simply in a couple of 15, 20 minutes, you can have a distributed file systems capability set up, spread across multiple nodes in your environment, serving up SMB, NFS. Multiple protocol is supported as well. So should you have the need, for your users to access certain files from Windows and from a Linux environment, that's entirely possible. And of course, we support that on multiple hypervisors, either VMware's ESX or our own AHV. So we really offer that no single point of failure, high availability system, and we offer native DR. So we do all of the data protection, including snapshots locally to each one of the clusters. We can replicate those snapshots and replicate your file services from your local cluster to another cluster in a remote data center. We can even up into our cloud services. Okay, really quickly before I get into the demonstration, this is what file analytics is about, and it's really kind of what we wanted to talk about today, was giving you information about your data. How is your capacity being consumed? How old is your capacity? Is it do you have stale data that needs to be archived? Who is accessing your data? Are there anomalies? Is somebody deleting a lot more data? Are they creating more files than it's normal? And it gives you that capability to start diving in and auditing and seeing what's going on and what types of files and what types of data is out there. Okay, so I'm just going to pop into the demo because I think that's a little more informative than just doing some slideware. So we will pop right in and we'll log in first. As Scott talked to you about a couple of weeks ago, the Prism interface. So this is our Prism Central, and this is the primary interface for managing all of your Nutanix clusters that you might have globally. You can see, information about VM efficiency. It's a very new cluster that I set up for this demo, so I don't have a lot of data to say, hey, what's being used. We can look into our cluster storage very quickly here. If we have multiple clusters, those will all be shown. And I can very quickly and simply dig into an individual cluster simply by selecting it. And this will load up our Prism element management interface. And this is where we manage each one of the individual clusters. And we can see exactly what's going on in the cluster, whether our data resiliency is possible. That's our N+1. So we have the capability to suffer an outage on a complete node and continue running without any degradation. Excuse me. So this should look familiar to you. It's what Scott and the team delivered a couple of weeks ago. So we'll dive right now into our individual file server. So we've got a file server created out here, just created a single file server. We can highlight that and we get a good look at the overview of what's happening. We can see the number of files that have been created. We see that event over time. We can dive in last 24 hours, last 6 hours, 3, whatever it is you need to do. We can download all of this into a CSV file so we can have some analytics and look at it over time, do some analysis, whatever it needs to be done. And then we can actually look into the individual shares. So we've got a number of shares that have been created. For our user home directories, we have that capability, as well as some departmental shares, and we can see what type of alerts, are there any events that have happened. We've updated the properties, we've changed, accessibility, we've changed quotas. We give you the ability to create additional file servers, so you're not limited to just one file server per cluster. You can have as many as you actually need out there. You can create additional shares and exports. So it's very flexible, very simple, very easy interface to take a look at. Now, what we wanted to do and really dive into today is our file analytics. So from within here, we highlight a file server, and we click on the File Analytics button, and this is going to pull up information regarding that file server about all of the actions that have been taken on your individual files. All right. Now, again, this is a proof of concept environment. I spin this up so I don't have a lot of history. So you can see that I got this turned up yesterday, and we can see, yesterday 240 gigabytes were added of capacity. Over time, this would show you how much data is being added to the file system, how much is being deleted, and you'll get a great trending of how your capacity is being used. One of the other very important pieces is the data age. So if you're looking here at the data age, you'll see that I have 316 gigabytes of data living on this file server. All right, right now it is less than 3 months old. As time goes by, we continuously analyze and we understand, and we start seeing, here's how much data is out there. I have a very small amount that is 6 to 12 months. All right. And as we start right now, I mean, we're just providing that information to you. So you get an analysis, you get an understanding of, what your data age is. And from previous engagements and work with previous customers, I often see that, this greater than 12-month line usually runs around, 40 to 60% of your data that just hasn't been accessed. It's just sitting there. Now, with the Nutanix storage services that we offer today, what we're doing at is this less than 3 months. This data is probably going to live in our flash system. That's the data that's hot. It's being accessed all of the time. So we keep it in flash, keep it available on those SSDs for quick access. And as it starts to age, part of the Nutanix file system and the Nutanix storage services, it automatically tiers that off to the spinning disks that are in the cluster to reserve capacity for the hotter, more frequently accessed data, while allowing greater capacity disks to store the bulk of your data. We've got a lot of good things that are in the works. We're looking at auto tiering some of this data off to our own object storage, and then looking at the ability to tier that on off to cloud storage. So if you were to use our Nutanix Xi cloud services, as we continue to evolve file analytics, we'll be automatically being able to archive that data, leaving a stub behind so that your users don't notice any difference in what their file systems look like. It may take a few seconds or a few milliseconds more to get that data back out of objects, but it will be there for them. All right. Some of the other information that we can take a look at here in files is around the file details, our distribution type. So what is using all of this capacity? Well, for me, it's archives, and those archives are defined as, zip files, GZ files, anything that looks like a backup. And these are all, configurable so you can set your own data storage types based on what it is that you need. So I know that I've got 150 gigabytes that are just sitting in archives out there. Is that people that are performing their own backups of their laptops and desktops and pushing it to the file server. It allows you to go in and understand what that is and start taking some additional actions, to possibly free up files capacity that you don't need. All right, we can look at the top 5 active users. So I've got myself here, and I've got another user, and we can dig in and see what it is that they've been doing across, for the last period of time that you can set. And right now we allow you to take a 1-year look back to see what all of these capacities are. And you can drill down and say, okay, well, what is this? What was the customer doing? How many files has he or she deleted? And we get a good look at, and we can see the target file name, what all of this is, as far as any deletes. We can look at, how many files were created. So it gives you that capability to dig deep down into what any given user has been doing. All right. So another very important aspect of this is, like I said, those audit trails. So I can come into this audit trail and I can find out exactly what is going on with, based on files, folders, users, or even down to the client IP address. So I know that you've probably had that user that said, I lost my very important file. I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. I need it restored. Well, you can come in and say, okay, what was the name of the file? Well, it's called very important, very super important document. And I can find out what it's doing. And I look at it and say, oh, it's yours. It's in your department share. Oh, and it looks like you've placed it in a temp folder. Is that where it belongs? Well, no, but I can go find that, and I can go get to that file and move it back for them very quickly. The other thing is you can dig in based on user. So if I dig in and look at another user, I can find out exactly what has been going on with that user, and I can apply audits. And I can say, okay, I want to know all of the files that this user wrote. Okay. And I can very quickly see what they are. Well, it's hard to do this and look just through a website. So let's export that file very quickly and easily. And I'm probably not going to, there it is. I could pull that report up into an Excel sheet that will show me precisely everything that was done against every file that the customer has written. So if all of a sudden I want to say, well, I want to know everything that has happened to this file, whatever file name that happens to be, I can take a copy of that file name, come back in, select files, search for that file, and I can find out every time it's been read, every time it's been written, and I can do that exact same audit to say who has done anything with the file. In this case, it's just another user who's done it. I know exactly what client IP they have done. I know when they created the file, when it was finally written, if there were any deletions, if there were any permissions denied against that, if somebody else was trying to access it, that would all be delivered here and be able to audit for these files. And one final thing that we want to talk about is anomaly reporting. All right, so we can see that over the last 24 hours, we had some anomalies. And these anomalies are really customizable. So they're what things that have been set up. So right now, I saw that my create rule it's been an anomaly 5 times, and my delete once. So we can define all of these rules very quickly and simply. And I set these up for the demo. I had a create rule that said, hey, if I create more than 500 files in an hour, I want to be notified about it. I want to receive an email. I want to see this in my anomaly report. Same thing for deletes. If I had 10 deletions in an hour, I can absolutely set this up. And one of the things that we're looking at this for is, the capability for you to understand and know if large bulk amounts of data are being created, if they're being deleted. So if, for instance, hey, on a normal day, there's, 25, 30 file deletions per hour, whatever it is that you see across your environment. I want to know if suddenly somebody is deleting 600 files an hour or 1,000 or whatever it may be. I want to be notified of that so I can find out what's going on. I can understand what's happening with those files. I can understand, hey, why are you deleting this? Should these files really be deleted? And of course, because we're constantly, every time you set up a file server, it automatically creates a protection policy. We can go and recover those files if we need to very quickly and easily before the users come along and understand what's, and have a problem. So it gives you alerting, it gives you capabilities to know and understand exactly what's going on with your file system, basically across the board. So I know we only have, we scheduled this for 30 minutes. We like to keep these short, get a lot of information out there to you, and then in the future, if you want to learn more about files, if you want to learn more about our object storage, Scott and I will be more than happy to set up an in-depth meeting with you. So right now, I think we'll turn it back to Scott and see if there are any questions that have come in and any questions that we can answer for you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Troy. We did get a couple pre-submitted questions and a couple new questions that have come in since we started. The first one is, can we have the file analytics reports scheduled and emailed to managers or C-levels on a regular basis?
Yeah, so we can, and I may turn this one and let Steve Puckett from our who manages our files here in the East answer that one for me. But we do have a number of reports that can absolutely be scheduled and sent around to people so that that you have visibility. Steve, do you have any other information on that? I think Steve went on mute.
We'll hold on that for a minute.
Hold on that one, that's okay.
Yep. Another question that came in was, is there a roadmap for integration of the tiering into public cloud providers such as Google, Amazon, or Azure?
I don't have I don't have that information at my fingertips. I mean, that's one of those we'd have to get a non-disclosure agreement with you. We definitely do have it on the roadmap. I can't share any timeframes with you. I know that the file analytics team, that is something that they are working very closely with. That's the piece that they're working on really diligently. So, Scott, Steve and Frank are saying that you guys have them on mute. I don't know if I can change them over or not.
Yeah, it doesn't look like I can unmute anybody. I think that would be Katie. Another question that did come in, we'll put a pin in that one as well. Can I run a Nutanix files cluster without a Nutanix infrastructure for my virtual environment? And that's a resounding yes.
Yeah, that is definitely a resounding yes. That is, we have what we call dedicated files clusters. They look, act, and feel, very similar to a standard Nutanix cluster because it's really built on the AOS foundation. We just set it so that you run as a standalone cluster that is, not schedulable for actual VMs to run on top of. So absolutely.
Yep. And then kind of a follow-on question to that is, what's the benefit of running files over just deploying a Windows server? And if I can start that one out,
sure.
The easy answer on that one is resiliency. The resiliency native to the Nutanix infrastructure extends into files, and that's a resiliency that that window file servers can't compare with. Additionally, you get more significant uptime because of that data resiliency. So every time you have to patch a Windows server, you're going to take an outage. Even if it's just failing over the Windows Server cluster, you're taking an outage.
Yeah, and the other piece of that, why we would do this with files instead of just a standard Windows server is really around scalability and, what we call linear scalability. So as you grow, you can increase the number of what we call file server VMs that are running in this file services cluster, so that we're not only adding capacity, we actually add, front-end IOP capability and ability to deliver files faster over the network because we're scaling out our file server VMs. The other piece is kind of our integrated protection domains, where that everything that's inside of this file services VM, the virtual file server you see, is automatically protected, and you give that capability to replicate your entire file system structure to another, files cluster somewhere, up into the cloud if you need to be. And it goes to the base Nutanix story across the board on scale out. Every time we add a node, we add compute, memory, additional capacity, whether that's in terms of SSD, hard drives, and bandwidth as well, because we're adding additional network ports and capabilities every time we add a node. So we can show you the graphs, and basically this is a nice linearly scaled capability that we get for performance as your file services grow.
And then the last question is, what sort of replication capabilities does Nutanix Files have?
So we use what we call protection domains, and while I don't have a second cluster, we can actually see that my protection domains that I have set up for this in my local site, and I apologize because this is set up to also do some database clustering as well. We can take a look at the protection domain that we have. Right now I'm doing local snapshots, so I am keeping 2 snapshots. I'm taking snapshots every 4 hours. We're keeping at least 4 of those on the local system. But we offer that capability to do asynchronous replication, and we can perform that as what we call near sync. So it's a very, very low RPO, recovery point objective, recovery time objective, down in the range of seconds. Our snapshots, we also enable self-service restores for your users who are supporting versioning. So it gives you that capability for your customers to go in and actually restore prior versions of their files at any time they need.
And I'd like to also add that integration with peer software, whom Plan B partners with, and obviously Nutanix partners with, enables active SMB server capabilities for cross-site capabilities at the file level. So that's really great functionality that Nutanix and its partners bring to the table.
Absolutely, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that I've gotten at least for me, unless Katie's received anything else. We'll give it 30 seconds or so for any additional questions to come in, and then we'll call it a day.
All right. Well, Scott, I appreciate your time, and really thanks to Plan B for hosting these. The one thing that I want to finish with is, the file analytics, we're really out to cure what we call data blindness. Okay, so we want to shine a light on what your data is, how it's being used, how your capacity is being consumed, and give you actionable reports and let you take action to manage that data. And we do it. File analytics is included with Nutanix Files. There's no additional cost. There's nothing extra to set up and configure other than a one-click. Hey, I want to enable file analytics on this file server. It runs through a file system scan one time. So you'll see a little bit of workload just as you go through, and then we never walk the tree. So we're never going back in and going, okay, well, what has happened? All of this metadata is being collected, live, real time, while the file servers are running. So we don't have to put any additional workload or cost into providing this data.
Those are great differentiators, and thanks for that, Troy. I think that's all we've gotten. So we will call it a day. I want to thank everybody for joining and for giving us a little bit of your time out of the day. Troy, once again, thank you for the presentation, and we hope to see you all again soon.
Yep. Just a reminder, in 2 weeks, we're going to cover our ERA database. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Talk to you later.